Welcome to True Echo, where the quiet voices roar loudest. Today's story begins with a simple act of kindness, a teenage boy saving for his mother's birthday. But in a world still shadowed by assumptions and fear, even a trip to the jewelry store can spiral into something far more dangerous. What happened next not only stunned bystanders, but exposed an ugly truth that too many still ignore, until someone powerful walks in. And she did. Stay with us until the end, because this story doesn't just confront injustice, it shows what real dignity looks like when it walks back through the door. Jalen Carter wasn't in a rush. That afternoon sun in Scottsdale, Arizona, hit the pavement like it was painting the day golden. He stepped off the city bus with earbuds in, dust on his sneakers, and a quiet kind of pride in his chest. 3 months of late shifts at the campus bookstore, all saved up. Birthday money too. And it was all going toward one thing, a necklace for his mom. Grantham and Lane sparkled from the sidewalk. Jalen had Googled the place, read every Yelp review twice. He wanted it to be perfect. Nothing flashy. Just something real. His mom didn't wear much jewelry, just a gold watch and those hoops she'd worn since he was 10, but she deserved more. He adjusted his hoodie, wiped his palms on his jeans, and stepped inside. The store smelled like lavender and wealth. Glass counters gleamed. Spotlights made the diamonds scream like they were begging to be chosen. A suited man nodded at Jalen, polite but professional. "Afternoon. Let me know if you need help." "Just looking," Jalen replied, voice steady. He moved slow, careful. He wasn't nervous, just aware. Every breath, every step in a place like this had to be measured. He didn't want to give anyone a reason to look twice. But someone already was. Outside, she stood near the fountain pretending to check her texts. Cheryl Danvers had watched him enter. Watched his hoodie. Watched the way he didn't bring anyone with him. And inside her, something small but poisonous began to brew. Jalen didn't notice Cheryl when she walked in, he was too focused on the small gold key necklace nestled at the edge of the display. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't loud. But it looked like something his mom would wear without even thinking about it. Like it belonged on her. The associate leaned in. "Thinking about a gift?" Jalen nodded. "Yeah. For my mom. You've got good taste. 14 karat. Solid piece. Want to take a closer look?" Jalen smiled. "Yeah, please." The man laid it gently on a velvet pad. Jalen leaned forward, imagining how his mom's face would light up when she saw it. She was tough, FBI tough, but he knew she had a soft spot when it came to him. That necklace wasn't just jewelry. It was appreciation. It was everything she'd done for him in a little golden charm. He didn't see Cheryl pretending to browse, her phone out, her eyes never leaving him. She wasn't interested in diamonds. She was interested in him. Or, more specifically, the story in her head about him. She dialed without hesitation. "Hi, yes, I'd like to report something. There's a young man in a hoodie inside Grantham and Lane. He's acting nervous. Kept looking around. I think he might be planning to steal something." Inside, Jalen asked about payment options, his tone respectful, sincere. $429 before tax, the associate said. Jalen winced slightly. "Y'all take Apple Pay?" "We do. Can you maybe hold it for a couple of days? Just until I'm sure I got enough?" "Normally, no." But the associate saw something in Jalen's eyes, a kind of dignity that was rare, even among their wealthier clients. "I'll check with the manager." Outside, Cheryl fed more lies through the phone, listing his skin tone, his clothes, the fact that he seemed to be trying to negotiate. As if talking to a salesman was somehow suspicious. By the time Jalen put down a $50 deposit and got his receipt, the world outside had already shifted against him. The receipt was warm in Jalen's palm, like it carried more weight than just a hold on a necklace. He tucked it into his wallet with quiet satisfaction and turned toward the door. Just then, he noticed something strange, how still the associate had become, how his eyes weren't on Jalen anymore. They were on the parking lot. Jalen followed his gaze just in time to see two police cruisers glide to a stop, lights off, engines low. His pulse jumped. He glanced down at his hands, at the small bag in his grip like it might be mistaken for something dangerous. Then the door opened. Two uniformed officers stepped inside, one tall with a square jaw and stiff posture, the other shorter, a woman with dark brown hair pulled tight into a bun. "Excuse me, son," the taller one said, approaching. His name tag read M. Delgado. "We need to speak with you." Jalen blinked. "Me? Just step over here for a minute," the woman officer added, her voice a practiced calm. Jalen's mouth went dry. He held up the small bag. I didn't do anything. I was just." "We're not accusing you of anything," Delgado interrupted. "Just need to ask a few questions." People in the store froze. The mother with the stroller suddenly became intensely interested in a display of sapphire rings. The associate behind the counter looked like he'd aged 10 years in 5 seconds. Jalen stepped aside, his heart pounding in his ears. "What's your name?" the female officer asked. "Jalen. Jalen Richardson. What brings you to the store today?" He held up the bag again, the receipt peeking out like a white flag. "I just put a deposit on a necklace. For my mom." "You came alone?" "Yes." "You live around here?" "Tempe. I took the bus." Delgado jotted something down. "You been in here long?" Jalen stared. "Why does that matter?" "Just confirming a report," the woman replied, flipping her notebook. "Someone said you were acting suspicious." Jalen felt something inside him snap. "I was looking at jewelry. In a jewelry store. Isn't that what people do? They asked for ID. He gave his student card. They scribbled more notes." Outside the window, Cheryl lingered like a watchful hawk, her purse gripped tightly like she had stopped a crime. Jalen turned to the associate. "You told them I did something?" The man's voice cracked. No. I told them you were a customer. Polite. You didn't do anything wrong." But by then, it didn't matter. Because the call had been made. The suspicion had been planted. The wheels had already turned. And for the first time that day, Jalen's hands began to shake. Jalen stood quietly, eyes flicking from one officer to the next, jaw tight with disbelief. His fists clenched inside the kangaroo pocket of his hoodie. He hadn't raised his voice. He hadn't made any sudden moves. He had literally just tried to buy a gift. And still, they'd come for him. "We just had to follow up," Officer Delgado said. "You matched the description." Jalen glanced down at himself. "You mean I'm black in a hoodie?" Neither officer responded. Officer Breener handed back his student ID. "You said you left a deposit?" "Yeah. Want to see the receipt?" Delgado nodded. Jalen passed it over, his hand steady now, more out of defiance than peace. The officer studied it, then turned to the associate. "Mind if we speak with the store manager?" "I'm the assistant manager," the man replied, his voice firmer than before. And honestly, he didn't do anything wrong. He was polite, quiet. Paid for the hold. "I don't know why anyone would have called you." Jalen exhaled. But it wasn't relief. It was exhaustion, the kind that crawled deep into your bones. Delgado looked at his partner. "We're done here." Jalen turned to leave, the bag still in hand. But before he reached the door, he paused. His voice came low, just above a whisper. "You know, my mom works in law enforcement. She told me this might happen one day. That someone might call the cops on me just for standing in the wrong place. I used to think she was exaggerating. Delgado shifted uncomfortably. Breener looked down. Then the bell over the door rang again. Jalen didn't turn around. Great, he muttered. What now? He didn't have to look. He knew that voice. Jalen, she said, calm but cool, you all right? He turned to see her. Simone Bellamy. Black blazer, black slacks, no makeup, badge clipped to her hip. She wasn't just his mom. She was Special Agent Simone Bellamy, FBI, chief of the Phoenix Division. And when she stepped into a room, it listened. The shift in the air was immediate. Both officers straightened like cadets on inspection. Can we help you, ma'am? Delgado asked. She held up her badge. Special Agent Bellamy. I'm his mother. What happened? For a beat, the room froze. Even the air conditioning seemed to go quiet. Simone looked around. The officers. The associate. The mother with the stroller. And then finally, Cheryl, who had stepped just inside the door, hoping to watch the end of what she started. Simone didn't rush. She walked with quiet control, her heels soft against the marble, her presence louder than any shout could have been. She reached Jalen and gave him a slow once-over, head to toe, checking for anything out of place. Not because she doubted him, but because habit demanded it. Satisfied, she turned to the officers. What's going on here? Her voice was low, measured, but it hit with the weight of a gavel. Officer Delgado cleared his throat. We received a call about suspicious activity involving your son. We didn't know who he was at the time. I'm aware, Simone said. So what exactly was the suspicious activity? Buying a necklace? Breener tried to step in, her tone apologetic. Ma'am, we just had to respond to the report. We weren't accusing him. Just standard questions. Did he match a suspect description for a known case? No, ma'am. Did he threaten anyone? No. Did the staff raise a complaint? The associate raised his hand slightly. No, not at all. He was great. Really respectful. Simone narrowed her eyes at Delgado. Then why was he pulled aside? Why did he have to show ID? Standard procedure, Delgado said flatly. We wanted to confirm. You wanted to confirm that a black teenager wasn't robbing the store because a white woman got nervous, Simone cut in, her voice sharper now. Let's not pretend this was anything else. The words landed like thunder in the quiet room. Cheryl flinched by the door. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Jalen stood next to his mother, chin lifted slightly now, fist still in his hoodie but looser. He was watching. Learning. Simone looked at him, then gently placed a hand on his shoulder. This, she said, is why I taught you to speak calmly around police. Why I told you never to reach fast, even if you're innocent. Especially if you're innocent. Delgado tried again. We understand this was a misunderstanding. No. You don't, Simone said. Because to you, this is another Tuesday. You'll write up a report, maybe log it in the system, and forget it by dinner. But for my son, this isn't just inconvenient. It's humiliating. It's proof that even when he does everything right, someone will still see him as a threat. Breener looked down again, shame creeping into her expression. Simone turned her focus on Cheryl. Are you the one who made the call? Cheryl's lips parted. She gave a small, nervous nod. I didn't mean to cause any trouble. I was just being cautious. I thought he was acting strange. Simone stepped toward her, slow, unflinching. What exactly looked strange to you? The fact that he was quiet? Polite? Or was it that he was young and black in a place you didn't think he belonged? Cheryl's mouth twitched. That's not what I... Simone raised a hand. I'm not here for your excuses. I'm here for your accountability. Cheryl looked like she wanted to disappear. Jalen stood tall, silent. Let's go, Simone said. And just like that, they turned to leave. Jalen followed his mom out the door, the tiny velvet bag in his hand like it weighed 10 pounds. The Arizona sunlight hit his face, but it didn't warm him. Not today. Not after what happened. It felt like exposure, like everything about him had been put under a microscope. Simone led the way to her government SUV, her pace steady. When they reached it, she opened the passenger door for him like he was 5 years old again. He didn't argue. He slid in without a word. She got in, closed the door, and just sat there for a moment, hands on the wheel, eyes on the windshield. You tracked me? Jalen finally asked. She didn't look at him. Store fraud alert pinged me. You used family Apple Pay for a high-dollar item. Automatic trigger. Jalen smirked faintly. So basically, I got low-key government surveillance. You're not a kid anymore, Simone said, turning to face him. You're a young black man walking around Arizona. I track you because I love you. And clearly, I'm not wrong for it. He nodded slowly. Couldn't argue with that. Simone took a breath. You handled yourself well. Kept your voice level. Stayed calm. That matters. Didn't feel calm, he muttered, staring out the window. You didn't show it. That matters too. Jalen tugged at a loose thread on his hoodie, shoulders still tense. It's messed up. I was literally trying to buy you a gift, and I get treated like I'm about to rob the place. Simone was quiet for a second. That woman didn't see you, Jalen. She saw a version of you she's been conditioned to fear. That's not your fault. But it is your reality. Jalen turned toward her. I thought, you being in the FBI, that would protect me. Like somehow it covered me too. Her voice softened. Me wearing a badge doesn't shield you from perception. It just means I see how deep the problem goes, from the inside. Jalen shook his head. She didn't even flinch when the cops walked in. She just stood there like she knew nothing would happen to her. She probably did, Simone said. He looked at her hard now. So what happens to people like her? After something like this? Nothing, right? She goes home. Simone nodded. Tells herself she was just being cautious. Maybe even believed she was the one treated unfairly. Jalen's voice cracked a little. So what's the point of doing everything right? She turned fully toward him now. The point isn't about them. It's about you. Your name. Your dignity. How you carry yourself. You did nothing wrong, and you still walked out of there taller than every person in that room. Jalen leaned back against the headrest. You sound like a TED Talk. Good, she said. TED Talks change lives. There was silence, then a soft chuckle from him. Then he looked down at the bag in his lap. Can we go back in? Simone blinked. Why? I want to buy the necklace. Now. Full price. No hold. You sure? Jalen nodded. I want them to see me finish what I came to do. Simone's lips twitched into a half smile. All right. Let's go make them uncomfortable again. And they stepped out of the car together, back toward the place that tried to make him feel small, but wouldn't win. The chime above the jewelry store door rang again, sharp and sudden. Heads turned fast, faster than they had the first time. Simone Bellamy entered first, posture commanding, arms loose at her sides but alert. Right behind her, Jalen stepped in, calm, steady, his hoodie still on, his grip tighter around the velvet bag. Cheryl was still inside. She was pretending to look at bracelets now, scrolling through her phone like she had been doing something normal. But when she looked up and saw Simone walk back in, and then saw Jalen behind her, her face fell. The officers were gone. The room had started to return to its quiet hum of business. But their entrance brought the tension snapping back like a wire under pressure. Jalen walked straight to the counter and laid down his receipt. "I'd like to pay the rest now." The associate blinked, then quickly straightened up. "Of course. Yes, sir. One moment." Behind him, Simone stood with her arms folded, gaze scanning the store like a detective still technically on duty. Her badge was no longer visible, but her authority remained. Cheryl hesitated, then walked toward them. I really am sorry," she said, her voice smaller than before. "I never meant for this to." "You meant to call the police," Simone interrupted, still not looking at her. "You meant to describe him as suspicious. That wasn't an accident." Cheryl flinched, visibly deflating. He looked. Jalen turned to her. "What about me scared you? My hoodie? My skin?" "I didn't say that," Cheryl whispered, when I came in and saw you, I thought." "I was shopping," he interrupted. "I know, there've been stories, and I didn't want to." Simone turned now, slow and deliberate. "You didn't want to be that person. So instead, you became this person, the one who makes assumptions and lets them escalate. And now you want us to help you feel better about it. I'm not a bad person." "No," Simone said, stepping closer, voice low but powerful. "But you made a bad decision. And decisions reveal who we are in the moments that matter most." Jalen tapped to pay. A quiet beep confirmed the sale. The associate handed him the velvet pouch with a small nod. "Happy birthday to your mom," he said, more sincerely this time. Jalen took the necklace, turned, and walked toward the door. Simone followed, but paused just before exiting. She looked back at Cheryl, whose face had drained of all certainty, and said, "You ever call the police again, make sure there's an actual threat. Not just your discomfort." Cheryl didn't reply. "Because every time you misuse that call, you gamble with someone's life. And next time, the mother might not get there in time." Jalen held the door. Simone walked through. Outside, the sun hadn't changed. But something inside both of them had. As they reached the car, Jalen held up the velvet pouch. "You still don't wear much jewelry," he said. Simone smiled faintly. "Guess I'll start." That night, back home, the necklace sat quietly on the kitchen counter. No speeches. No drama. Jalen slid it across to her. "Early gift." She opened the box and stared at the tiny gold key. It was delicate. Thoughtful. "Why a key?" she asked. Jalen leaned against the counter, his voice soft. "Because you're the reason I never felt locked out of anything. You always made sure I knew I had the right to stand where I stood." Simone nodded slowly, swallowing emotion. "It's beautiful." She didn't need to say anything more. And neither did he. Later, she stood at Jalen's doorway. He was sitting on his bed, watching NBA highlights, earbuds in. She waited until he noticed her. "You okay?" "I don't know," he said honestly. "I feel like I should be madder, or sadder. But I'm just tired." "That's honest," she said. He sat up. "You know what scared me the most?" She waited. "I didn't do anything wrong, and they still came at me like I might have." Simone nodded. "That's the trap. The system doesn't always respond to what's right. It responds to fear, bias, assumptions. But that's why you keep showing up like you did, so they get used to seeing young men like you in places they think you don't belong." Jalen was quiet. "You think she'll remember today?" Simone paused. "Yes. But that's not your job. You don't carry her growth. You carry your own." He nodded. That settled something in him. She kissed his forehead and stepped out. The next morning, Cheryl sat in her car outside a grocery store, sipping lukewarm coffee. No news crews. No lawsuits. No real consequences. But her hands were still trembling. She kept hearing Simone's words. Maybe the first step is to ask yourself why someone looks suspicious to you in the first place. She looked up at a group of teenagers walking into the store, laughing, pushing each other, backpacks half-zipped. One wore a hoodie. She didn't reach for her phone. She just watched. Sometimes, the most powerful kind of justice doesn't come from a courtroom or a badge. It comes from showing up with dignity, even when the world tries to shrink you. Jalen didn't just buy a necklace, he reclaimed his space. Don't let someone else's fear shrink who you are. Simone Bellamy. If this story moved you, share it. Talk about it. Let it spark conversations in your home, your classroom, your community. And if you've ever been judged before you even spoke, keep speaking anyway. Subscribe to True Echo for more real stories that hit where it hurts, and heal where it matters. Drop a comment. Share with someone who needs to hear this. And remember, real change doesn't come from noise, it comes from truth.